Hi, folks. Steve Urban here, founder and CEO at recruiting firm Riderflex. If you enjoyed today's guest interview, please give it a like and be sure to subscribe to the Riderflex podcast. And now, a quick word from our sponsor.
Try the #1 marketing platform for small business. Everything you need from design to marketing to CRM. Learn more at marketing360.com. Marketing 360. Fuel your brand. Try the #1 marketing platform for small business. Everything you need from design to marketing to CRM. Learn more at marketing360.com. Marketing 360. Fuel your brand.
Merritt Moore on the Riderflex podcast. Hi, Merritt.
Hello.
Very nice to meet you. I've been waiting for this. You have an interesting, fascinating background. And when when I started studying you online, I'm looking up the YouTube videos, I'm seeing the dancing videos, and then I see your education and I'm like, holy shit, she's smart as hell. I don't know if I can do this interview or not. So I've been waiting for it. Thank you so much for being on. Where are you today? You're traveling, right?
Yeah, I just landed in Mumbai this morning.
You tired? You look good. You look good. You don't look like you jet lagged
No,
at all.
I'm feeling good. I mean, it's just been crazy. Like flew from Switzerland to Dubai yesterday, flew from Dubai to Mumbai today. I'm on airplanes a lot, but it's good. It's good fun.
How is this week? Has travel gotten a little easier with COVID and stuff, or is COVID still like a major part of it? Like what's going on in other countries and airports? I'm just curious.
It's definitely lots of sticks going up my nose, and lots of, they all like to do that. So that's not gone away. But I do think like traveling back to Dubai from India will be easier. I hear like previously you needed a COVID test 6 hours before you got on the flight. So that just makes it quite difficult. Whereas now I think it's slightly easing up. I think,
So it's getting a little easier. Kind of, we're kind of, it's moving along now at a little faster pace of easing up, or at least it feels like it. I hope.
Yeah.
I want to know about your background, your family, where you grew up, mom, dad, siblings. Can you give me a little history?
Yeah, certainly. So I was born and raised in Los Angeles. My dad is an entertainment lawyer. And I think the fact that we were in the middle of Hollywood, my parents were like, we are good. They put me in a bubble. They're like, we don't want our daughters exposed to this. So it was like no TV in the house my whole entire life, no fashion magazines, no Barbies, no Disney movies, or very rarely. It was mostly my dad like reinventing fairy tales where Prince Charming comes and asks my sister and I, will we marry him? And he's like, he's on a golden horse or something. And then
Interesting.
How he programmed us was to be like, stand on the bed and jump up and down and go, no, you have to meet our father first. So that's like how our fairy tales went. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and I think she had been born, I don't think, she was born in Korea. Okay. And she got, I think it's disgruntled by the system in which, it's like they're working and studying nonstop, right? And there's a perfection that they're striving for. And so for us, for my sister and I, she wanted to do the exact opposite. And she didn't want anything to be forced. And so but she just, there was total freedom, but I do now looking back, I'm like, oh, my mother was sneaky. Like she, instead of forcing us to read anything, she just had like the placemats were periodic tables, and up on the bathroom wall, like across from the toilet, is like history of the, all the kings of England, or, like.
That's okay. You're an important person, man. We got to get the phones ringing.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah. So there was like just no TV, but there was we had a designated room. There was just the library where we had books. And then there was the designated space where it was just like a table that had tons of papers and pens and sequins and whatever you could possibly do with books on tape that we could listen to. And so it was definitely like, it was such a playground. And my sister and I grew up not knowing that we were deprived of TV. Like people would ask, oh, do you feel deprived? And we're like, we have no idea what that would be like. So
did you have a smartphone, flip phone? What was back then? I can't remember, but did you have a cell phone?
Man, I had the like Nokia brick that you could throw across the room and it would still up until college. I think smartphones had existed, but I didn't have one until college.
Were you the oldest or youngest, or where were you?
I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest. Okay. Yeah. All right. And how did your mom and dad meet?
They met at UCLA. So I think supposedly how the story goes is it was my mom's first day of undergrad. And my dad was at law school and they met.
I see. Did you get to meet any famous actors or actresses or anything since your dad was an entertainment lawyer? Anybody super famous?
Oh, yeah. His clients are like Sophia Loren. Like I have baby photos with her and she's been around. And I think Morgan Freeman and I think it was Michael Jackson. And mainly though film he worked on in like represented film distributors.
I see. Okay, very good. Is he retired now or still working?
No, he'll never retire. That's not.
Okay. So when you were growing up, were you super then straight A? Obviously, you were a straight A student. You got into Harvard. So, I mean, did you have any fun in high school? Did you go to any parties or were you just at the library every day? Or what kind of kid were you? I'm just curious.
Elementary school. So right before high school, I think I was kind of lazy actually. And then fortuitously, I was in a class though there was like 6 of us and they were getting A's. And I was watching them and I was like, oh, if they can do it, like, okay, then I'm going to up my game, right? Like it was just really great. Like it definitely, the environment, I think inspired me. I
see.
And then in high school though, that's when I started dancing.
Okay.
And that was like my passion. I like fell in love with dancing and I knew, the rule was like I had to finish my homework in order to dance.
Oh, I see. All right.
So and it just became my whole, like then dance and academics became my whole life. And so no, you wouldn't, throughout high school and throughout college, I didn't party at all.
I mean, when I saw your background, I thought to myself, okay, Harvard, Oxford, dancer, like, wow. Like, okay, did she do any like social fun stuff? Did she? I mean, that took a lot of work. All right. I mean, by the way,
I was nuts. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, during college, I was definitely nuts. Like, I mean, I loved like every moment of it, but looking back, I'm like, wow, I really had to absorb. Like, I had a planner or I had a schedule. Like, I would go on a trip because I'd love to reassess how I'm doing at the airport because it's like no man's land. I love airports. It's just free of stereotypes, no one knows you. It's you get to kind of reassess and like be like, okay, how are we going to improve going forward? Anyways, weird detail. But I then would write out like the dream schedule of me, the most productive version of myself, starting at wake up, like alarm hits at 6 o'clock, take the foam roller into bed, and I'd write it out from 6 to 6:07. I'd be like, okay, 7 minutes, roll out the right side of my quad while I'm still falling asleep. 6:07 to 6:14.
Oh, wow.
Roll out the left side. But I would also write like deep breathing, think about the 3 things you're grateful for, think about the 3 major projects. Like I had it on a piece of paper that was like written, be like 3 minutes to brush my teeth. I'll do releves. I'll stretch out my shoulders. It was the most detailed thing. And I think most people would be like, oh my God, that's so stressful. But I don't think I wasn't mean to myself if I couldn't do it. Okay. I would just try. I would try to implement something. It would fail. I tried to implement it. It would fail until it became habit, until it became routine. And then once it becomes, I don't know, it was probably that Atomic Habits book that I read. I think that was the book.
Okay.
Where, you know, I read a lot of tons of self-help personal development books when I was younger, but I think it was like, okay, if I can make it a habit, then I don't have to think about it and it's not stressful anymore. And I can add more positive habits to my day to a point where everything's like, the goal was kind of to make things feel as though I'm like brushing my teeth.
You're very self-driven. Your work ethic and is just extreme. Is that from your mom and dad, or one versus the other? Yeah.
I don't know. My dad is definitely a workaholic, like in his personality. So I probably got it from him. But then also, I think my mother, like my sister and I had to wake up my mom to take us to school. And she'd always be like, 5 minutes, girls, just 5. Like, why do you need to be at school on time? Yeah. We'd be like, Mom, like we'd be crying, just being like, it's her birthday. We just want to be at school on time once. You know? And my sister would go to every clock and change it so that we could be on school on time.
Are you serious?
So,
okay. Whoa.
Yeah. So I think it was a combo of probably genetically, I'm disposed to being a bit of a workaholic.
Okay.
And then my mother, she made us like, she just wouldn't get us to school on time. So it made us want to do that. Or she'd be like, do you really, like, how about a rain day? We just stay in bed and like.
That is interesting. I wouldn't have expected that. Is your sister, is she an Ivy Leaguer as well, doctor?
Is she Harvard to Forbes 30 under 30? Where, yeah.
Both girls went to Harvard. I mean, your parents must be extremely proud, right? I mean, wow, what a major accomplishment. Major accomplishment.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. So dancing was a huge part of your life. When you were in high school, were you thinking, I'm going to be a dancer for a living? Or how did quantum physics tie into dancing? And were you going to pursue a different career? What was your plan?
Okay, good question. So I started dancing at 12, 13, which is middle age in the dance world. And so I was told that I would never dance. I couldn't make it professionally.
Because you started too late.
I started too late.
Okay.
Like I couldn't do the splits till I was 15. I was going to a very academic high school. I mean, it was just all the odds were against me ever dancing professionally. And so I don't know. I think it's a combo of being told it's not possible, but secretly really wanting it, and secretly kind of in my head being like, why not? Like, why? What if I could do it? Right. And another book was, you know, where they talk about the 10,000 hours. And in my head, I was like, okay, if I started late, but can I make up those hours if I optimize my day? Like can I put in 10 hours a day, even though I'm also juggling physics and then academics, but like, you know, if I'm doing my feet exercises for the hour of that lecture, that counts as an hour, right? Like someone would be doing just that. So, you know, like if I'm falling asleep in the foam roller, that should also count as a couple hours, you know, like, so I was just thinking like, okay, where can I squeeze in the hours? If hours is what's necessary to make it, then the age in which I start shouldn't really matter. It's the amount of hours I can squeeze in. So I'm literally like ringing hours wherever I get to the last drop.
Wow. When you meet a lazy person, do you just look at them like, what is wrong with you? Like, how do you react? I mean, that is such the opposite of you. How do you react to somebody like that?
No, because I think also in my core, I feel like I'm quite lazy.
I wouldn't describe you as lazy. You're doing feet exercises during class. I don't think, you know.
I think it's also a mental game with myself. So yeah, I'm like, oh, I don't want to do it. But the beauty of juggling two things is, if you have two passions, is that one of the things at the moment is harder than the other one. And so like I think I'm a huge procrastinator. So if there's like something really hard to do, I'm a little bit, the other thing is great to do. even, so I'm putting in a lot of work into the other thing just because the other thing is way harder.
So what was were you thinking I want to be a dancer? Yeah, I got you off track right there. Were you thinking I want to be an astronaut back then? And I want to get into that, by the way. But what was your plan? Like, let's call it, I don't know, first year of Harvard. Like, what were you thinking you were going to do? Yeah, go for it.
First year at Harvard, no, there were a number of times before that I quit dancing. I thought I was quitting. I had an amazing mentor, though. I just found there are a couple of reasons. One is at first I found ballet very repetitive. I thought that I was like, just get a mannequin if like everyone's doing the same thing. Like, this is boring. I was like, I just don't get it. But I had this amazing teacher who had been a principal in the Romanian ballet, and she took me under her wing. Like, I slept on our kitchen floor, and we trained from 6 a.m. to midnight. Like, I was hungry for everything. She was in Italy, and she taught me everything I knew, and everything. It was all about. She's like, no, like every movement is new, every sensation is new, and she made dance a whole other thing. She's like, every time you do a rondejump, it's like your foot's going through the sand and you're at the beach and you're at the water and the sun's shining. Like, it was just a whole other experience than like up and down and up and down and up and down.
Okay.
And she taught me, she said, she's like, stop beating yourself up to be perfect. Like,
okay.
Being perfect is replaceable with another person that's perfect, but be unique, be different. Like, that's irreplaceable. So that was, anyways, we keep getting sidetracked. Sorry.
That's okay.
But so I'm at Harvard. I think that I'm stopping dance forever because I'm studying physics. I'm at Harvard. No one goes to college and then dances professionally. It's never been in my cards. But my second year at Harvard, I realized I've been performing a lot. Harvard had a lot of performing opportunities. And I just also thought, like, it's now or never. Like,
okay.
I want to make this happen. So, I didn't, there are a couple things. One thing is there are a couple of mothers of daughters at the ballet studios that I would hear. And they were always like, I regret having quit. I thought I was bad, but actually I was quite talented, and I regret quitting. And so in my head, I was like, I just don't want to feel that regret when I'm older. Like, so sophomore year, I was just like, I'm doing it. Like, I am giving it my all. And then later I can lie on the beach with a pina colada and be like, you reached a limit, you couldn't do it. But looking back and be like, but Merritt, you really tried your hardest. And so I did. I like auditioned 25 times, 25 different companies that year while I'm doing thermodynamics and quantum mechanics and math and computer science. It was very, very intense.
I can't imagine.
Yeah. But then I got in. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sorry. During this time, any relationships? Like, what's your social life like? Do you have boyfriends, partners, I don't know, girlfriends, whatever? I don't know. But do you have any relationships?
I'm so grateful because I'm so close, or like I'm close with the friends I had back then now as well.
Okay.
And these are the friends, they understood. I think they could just see it in my, they're like, this girl has a passion and she wants to do that. Right.
Okay.
And so they were so, I think, supportive and understanding. And, they knew that I loved being with them and loved hanging out with them when I had a free moment. But the free moments were rare.
Super
yeah,
rare.
Very rare. So first boyfriend was when I was like 21.
And your dates were like your dates were like 15 minutes. You're like, listen, man, I got 15 minutes for you.
Oh, it wasn't me. No. They didn't even get a designated date. So many showed up in the, there were people passing through the physics department. I mean, I think the first 3 or 4 boyfriends were all physicists because
Gotcha.
that was the only way they were going to find me. Like, I was in the basement.
Wow. And not right now, not married, no kids, nothing like that.
Not married, no kids, but wonderful boyfriend. And
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Is he a physicist?
He likes physics, which is definitely how on the second date, I was like, oh, I've got a physics tutor tomorrow. Do you mind if we watch a YouTube physics video? I was like, oh, yes. You're a keeper. We are keeping you.
Okay. So did you know you were going to get your doctorate? Was that a plan after Harvard? Was the whole time where you're like, I'm going to Oxford, I'm going to get my PhD? Was that a plan?
No, the plan was, everyone's like, I also heard, you can't really make it in physics. So the plan was just to make it through each semester. I was like, I love physics. Let's just see if I can make it one semester at Harvard. Made it. And then I was like, can I make another semester?
Mm-hmm.
Made it. And my thought was, look, it's not going to be like, if I can't make it in physics and I have to fall back on something else, I'm not going to be screwed over. In my head, I didn't think so. So gotcha. I was like, if I love this, I'm just going to try to keep on going as long as I can until I really hit until I get flunked, they kick me out because I'm been failing. I don't know. Like, I was just like, that was my thought process. I ended up doing quite well, but yeah, I was just like, there was no thought of Oxford or PhD because I just didn't know if I was going to make it through each semester because everyone said like it's impossible.
I see. When you got your PhD, then what? What was your plan then? I want to be a teacher. I want to teach back at Harvard. I want to, go for it. Tell me.
Well, so I loved dance, and it was quite risky for me then to do my PhD right after college. I danced 2 years professionally, but I chose to do my PhD in my mid-20s, which is the prime time for a dancer. And I guess I addressed that dilemma by thinking like, I might not be able to dance after, which is a risk, because it's a passion of mine. But I would also rather be sleeping on a couch in the lab in my 20s than in my 30s. It's like my deciding factor to do my PhD first. I was just like, I just don't want to be in my 30s, like sleeping at the lab for 2 weeks straight, which, did happen. And then, so right after my PhD was the question of, can I dance professionally again? I don't know. Can I jump back in? And so I took 4 months to train, or I was like, I'm just going to train and let's see what happens. And that was at a time that was quite difficult because, I didn't have an income from PhD. I didn't have income at that time. And I was just like, am I willing to starve to death to see if I could make it professionally again? I was like, okay, let's do it. Like oatmeal for 2 weeks and let's rough it out. And magically got into Norwegian National Ballet and was dancing with them. And
is that was a paying gig?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Not probably like peanuts, but paid a little something.
Oh, yeah, definitely peanuts but compared to actual peanuts, it was at least better than the 4 months where I was training. And
was your mom and dad, were they like, hey, you got a PhD from Oxford in quantum physics, like you need to use that and not be a dancer? Or were we getting any pressure from them, or they were fully supportive of just the dancing?
Oh no. They weren't. Yeah. So like every time I got into a ballet company, like for instance, I auditioned 25 times and I'm rejected 24 of the times. And my parents encouraged me to audition.
Okay.
They're like, because for them, they're like, she's never going to make it. It's really good for her to fail and get back up. So they were like, okay, go do another audition, like fail, get back up, get that strength. They're like, be really proud when you do that. The problem was when I called them my dad and was like, Dad, I got into Boston Ballet. Like, it's huge. He's just like, I know. He's like, I heard the bad news. He's like, can I make a deposit for next year? Like, how do we, like, God. Yeah. Yeah, I chose the two professions. He's just like, Merritt, why? You keep choosing these professions. But like, I'm not going to pay you. Like, why?
And right now, current current timeline, you
Mhm.
are teaching at Harvard and still dancing. Is that accurate or no?
No, so I was artist in residence at
Oh, I see.
Harvard Art Lab,
Okay.
exploring sort of movement with robots. And that was right before the pandemic. That was January, February, right before the pandemic.
Okay.
And then the pandemic hit and that blows up everything. But all my dance gigs got canceled. And I was just like, well, I can't dance with humans, but maybe let's continue dancing with a robot. Like, like the
Why?
robots can't get COVID.
But why was that even before you started doing that before COVID? Like what was the objective, or what was the reason, or how did that happen? Like, how did you didn't just wake up one day and be like, I'm going to dance with a robot. Like, how'd that happen?
I think it was the decade of doing both dance and physics, but I kept them very separate.
Okay.
I cared about the excellence. I was like, if I fuse it together, I think the quality goes down, or at least that was what I was worried about. But I do think that I was always intrigued by, can technology, can science enhance human creativity? What is a fusion of art and science that makes something that's even more profound and excellent? I think that sometimes things get lost in translation. And so I think the caliber is sometimes, it has to be less in order, like the crossover between science and art sometimes doesn't gel very well. So I'd always resisted combining the two, but I was always, I think, curious if I could merge the two. One, because I was like, that would save me a couple hours so I could sleep more if I could merge them.
I see.
But then I watched that documentary AlphaGo.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
It's great. Watch it. Yes, definitely.
Okay.
It's a documentary about deep minds, AI machine that learns how to play Go, which is an incredibly complicated game, way more complicated than chess. Has been played for 2,500 years. And this machine plays against the top player in the world. And you see them play various games, and the AI machine beats the human. And the remarks and the commentary that I was hearing in the documentary from people who know the game, who are experts in the game of Go, was, wow, that was a creative move from the AI machine. Wow, humans have been playing this game for 2,500 years.
The word creative and AI usually don't go together.
Right? They're like, this game has been played for 2,500 years. We've never seen a human make this move. That is, wow, that was great. That was incredible. Like, it just, and now humans are training from the AI machine and becoming even better than they were. Because I think it just sparks it, like opens up the door of what is possible. Like humans, we kind of learn from the humans before us. And so I think everything is iteratively progressing, but quite slowly, whereas the AI machine will like do something from left field, and it just opens up that whole path. You're like, oh, you see it from upside down. And in the same way,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Is the robot that you're dancing with creative enough or smart enough with AI technology to do a move that surprises you, or it only follows you?
There have been moves that have surprised me. There are various levels, different projects I'm working on with the robot. One is exploring, choreography that's created by AI that's being done by the robot.
Okay.
The only thing, like during this time though, I've been on my own. So most of it is me filming myself with the robot. And I've done stuff that's pre-programmed just because I'm not at this stage, or it would take a lot to figure out how to do it where it's safe. Like, it's good to know where the robot's going to go. Give me a metal rod,
yeah, right.
If it's like, if it's emotions take over, like it's like, oh, and I want to do a big swing around right at the level of your head. And you're like,
oh, good point.
I just want to heads up on that one.
Who's paying? Can I ask you this? How are you financing it? Like, when I see it, being a business owner, and so forth, when I'm watching and I'm studying, I'm like, okay, this is cool. Like, can you make money doing this? Or Who is Harvard funding the robot? Who's paying for the robot? Like all the money stuff. I mean, the art part of it is cool. Don't get me wrong. But I'm like, okay, how's this working financially? You know, is that a fair question?
It is a fair question. So in the beginning, I would say I don't think it's the greatest strategy in the world, but I can't help it. It's just my personality, where I will definitely go, okay, I'm going to jump out of the plane, and hopefully midway down there's a parachute. So definitely during the pandemic, it was like, I don't have a job. Robot companies lend me a robot. I'm just going to do it. And I'm going to do it in time, like 7 a.m. to midnight. It's just me and the robot. No one's paying me. Nothing's happening.
How did you talk the company into giving you the robot or letting you use the robot?
Oh, I definitely, I like LinkedIn every single person at the company for about a couple months. And I somehow like finagled one phone call. And then that person was like, no, you need to talk to that. Like Mark was like, no, you need to talk to Tom. And then Tom was like, no, you need to talk to Ryan.
Yeah.
And then Ryan's like, you need to talk to Mark. I was like, yeah. But it started off with them just lending it for 2 weeks.
Okay.
And understandably for them, like they're like, the market for robot dancer is zero. Like,
but in their mind, it's good marketing for the robot that they're building, right? Somehow they're thinking they get the marketing. I'm assuming. I
think they probably let me have it because they're like, we just need this girl to stop LinkedIn everyone in this company. And then number two, but when I had it for the 2 weeks, I was making videos that were going viral. So like getting 14 million views, 1 million views, like continually. And I think they realized, wow, our videos of the robot lifting up a cup and putting it down is getting a few hundred views. Not only is it getting massive coverage, one, but then also is getting featured in Time, Financial Times, BBC Click, but also one, it's like the whole thing that robot companies are fighting is the fear of robots, right? And the human machine interaction. Well, you have this girl dancing next to a robot. The fear factor already, it turns into something comical. If the robot's doing the Michael Jackson, like, hip thrust with the girl, like how scary, I think people see it and be like, oh, if that girl can dance with the robot and do salsa with it, like how freaking scary can this robot be?
Gotcha. So yeah, it's good for them. Yeah, I see.
I think on that level, and then also what's been fun is also working with like researchers and exploring, being like, how can we use what I need artistically, creatively. Like, for instance, interacting with the question of, can one improv with a robot? Like that will be so fundamental later on for human machine interaction in the real world, right? Like,
no doubt.
You can't have everything pre-programmed. You'll need to figure out a way to make it safe, to make that available. And the extreme case is dance. So if you solve the dance scenario, you're set for everything else.
I see. Yeah, very good. Can you make money? Are you making money doing this? Is somebody paying you for this?
So now it's been, so then like me jumping, the parachute is there. It has arrived.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And so now I have to say, like, when I was just a dancer, I mean, I was having to hustle a lot. And now in the position that I'm in, like, I have companies, I'm not hustling at all.
Sponsors or.
Yeah, I'm big, like I did something for Louis Vuitton. I'm doing a big event at CloudFest at Europark in Germany.
Awesome. Good for you.
Possibly Forbes. Yeah. So
that's cool.
Big performances, big events, big brands, Kia car company, Time. Like, so then, yeah, it's a lot of business. Just needed that jump.
Congratulations to get to that point. I do think you're absolutely right. The whole topic of interacting with a robot, and is it safe? And what if it hits you in the head? What if it runs you over? What if it smashes your finger? Like, all of those thoughts always go through my head when I think about AI and robots. And I can see how what you're doing would put more people at ease and also help some of the technology that they're working on. Let me ask you this. What happens when, and this is I don't mean to get too far fetched here, but what happens when robots and AI can make their own robots and they don't need a human to do it? What happens when robots can make robots? Do we enter then? Because I've heard Elon Musk talk on this, right? And he has said several times, hey, if we're not careful, this could get out of control. What are your thoughts about that? Are you worried about that someday? You're like, oh man, that's that could be tricky. Just curious.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think there are two things. I think AI for sure is something of concern that we need to think about as a society and be aware of, because it's coming really fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I just read the book by Eric Schmidt and Henry Kissinger and the MIT professor about Age of AI. And it was interesting, like some of the problems that they posed of like, yeah, your kid has an AI teddy bear and it's learning with the kid, and they're watching TV or something, and the teddy bear is like, oh, that sucks. And then the kid's like, yeah, that sucks too. Like who decides what that AI teddy bear is going to decide what sucks or what isn't? Like that new friend, we don't know what that looks, so there are things like that I was like, whoa.
That's happening right now. That's happening right now with the information flow to your phone. Your phone and social media is telling you what sucks. Yeah, that is happening.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, and that filtering. Yeah, that is true. But on the other side, I think that when people see the robots dancing, there's the immediate fear that it'll replace humans.
Right.
And I definitely, maybe very far in the future, not in the immediate future though, I see the robot more an equivalent of when, for instance, or the reaction of painters when the camera was invented. Painters being like, oh my God, like all our jobs are going to be out. Like no one's ever going to want a painting. There's this camera that can take something instantly and show you exactly what it looks like. But look, we've become decades away from, long time since we've had cameras existing, and everyone has a camera, and we still appreciate paintings and paint and like, and also what I think is if the camera hasn't replaced a human, often we always see it as it's a tool that a human can use to kind of express what they want to express, like to share art but it's the human, right? You never see like, oh, camera Tom, the camera called Tom took a photo, and it's like, no, the photographer Tom took the photo. And so in the same way, I think that with robots, it's like it's just a tool, a means of expression to share human creativity.
You don't think the Terminator, the movie Terminator, is going to happen someday?
Well, who knows? I mean, it's hard to predict the future, but definitely not in the near term. I think right now it's like you'll be able to see choreography of robots. I think there are definitely going to be more choreography of robots, and you'll know there'll be a flavor that's unique to the choreographer, to the human behind the choreography.
Okay.
Or the dancer interacting with the robot.
Okay. Tell me about this. You want to go in space, or is that still a goal, by the way? Go to the moon, be an astronaut? Is that still a goal? Will you tell me why is that a goal? And then tell us real quick about your recent tryout, so to speak. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So I was in my PhD, and someone mentioned that BBC was having this application process. They're going to select 12 candidates to undergo astronaut selection process with astronaut Chris Hadfield. And I was like, whoa, I hadn't even thought like astronaut career there isn't a career stand, at college being like, be an astronaut. But I was like, it combines my physics and the physical aspect that I love.
Right.
Why hadn't I thought about this sooner? So I went through that process, and it was amazing. It was exhilarating. It was absolutely wonderful. They had us like the first day, they're just like, here's a helicopter, hover it. I was like no simulator. Normally you're in a simulator for weeks and then you fly super high up. They're like, 3 meters above the ground, just hover it.
You mean, hold on. You had to step inside a real helicopter and like take the control.
In the air. Yeah. With that cyclic thing. Like helicopter is the most non-intuitive. It's so, I mean, yeah. It's hard to, also when it's so close to the ground, you're freaking out. And there were cameras and I was like,
okay.
ooh. So they did that, like then flew us to Germany there's a simulator that astronauts use to dock the Soyuz to the International Space Station. And did that. We drove I navigated the Mars rover. It was really intense and amazing.
Is it like the Navy SEALs where like people are slowly dropping out and slowly getting kicked out, or they wait till the end and then tell you who made it? Okay. It's first. All right. Okay. Okay.
It's TV.
So every day you wake up, there's somebody else gone. Okay.
And you have no access to phone, computer. Yeah, it was really intense.
Ooh, how far did you get?
Halfway.
Okay. Was it super emotional when they like knocked on your, what is it? Is it just like on TV? Did they knock on your hotel room and like, hey, pack your bags, you're out? How'd it go?
They definitely did everyone's in a circle and then they'll pick one person to go talk to astronaut Krista. And then they'll be like, so what do you think she's going to get kicked off? Do you think, discuss. But we're all athletic, but we're also all dorks. And so we're like, we don't want to say anything bad about the other person.
Yeah, right.
And they're trying to this is TV.
Are you going to go back? Are you going to try again? What's your plan now?
So now it's super interesting because there's a lot of civilian possible flights. Like there's the incredible Yusaku Maezawa, who's in Japan, who's I think who has paid a large amount in order to get the first flight around the moon.
Okay.
And he's taking 8 artists to go with him. Did
you already put your name on the list?
I put my name on the list. And so there are things like that make it, I've also applied for NASA and cool. Continue all these things. So I'm kind of like learning my piloting, like getting my piloting license. And
where did the space, passion come from? Are you fascinated about the universe? Are you fascinated about the possibility of life on other planets? Are you one of those folks that wakes up every day and are like, what is the meaning of all of this? And how far does that black space go? Like, is that stuff, you think about that stuff a lot?
Definitely had that initiated as a young kid. So my dad would take my sister and I out on the balcony to stare at the stars, and we'd have these constellation maps, and he'd be like, what's dark matter? What's dark energy? What's there one big bang? Is there life out there? Like what? Like all so that. Constantly, every time I look in the space, I'm like, what's this? What's that? Like where's it? So there's definitely that component, but also I've always loved adventure.
I see.
By the time like 13, I was traveling around, and at 15, I did a school year abroad in Italy, and during that summer, I figured out a whole trip where I did various ballet camps, but like from Austria to France to Spain, like everywhere. So I was on the road, and then to the Middle East, and then
so the adventure, the whole aspect, the whole risky kind of adventure.
Love it.
Think that's the part that okay, gotcha. All right. You're not scared. You wouldn't be scared to get on a spaceship, and if they said, hey, we invented a new machine to travel faster, and we're gonna select 20 people to go to Mars, but you're gonna be gone for 8 years. Would you sign up?
8 years is a bit long.
Okay.
I don't know. That would because so there's the aspect of I'm like, but I also need to be able to stretch my legs, and I like being outside. So they're some complex. Whereas a trip around, to the moon,
I see.
That's like a 7-day trip. That's great. Yeah.
Okay.
8 years. It's when we go into the years component that gets.
Is there life on other planets, Merritt? What do you think?
That one's a hard one. I don't know. It seems impossible that there wouldn't be, but also I'm like, it's such the probability of like, it's so crazy that we exist. Like if you go back, it was like the perfect, Earth sits that right distance away from the sun, and it had the perfect like mixture of components. Like if it was too close, it's too hot. If it's too far, it's too cold. Like the atmosphere, like all these things, and then like it's just like wow, like crazy. I don't know.
The one thing that I'm fascinated by is the fact that we just don't know how far the black space goes. Like that part for me is very interesting. Like how can we all just sit here and just be like, nobody knows how far it goes? Like we have got to figure that out. Like somebody's got to figure that out.
Right? It's just like, what is it? Infinity? Like what is that?
Yeah. What is it? I gotta know. I need to know. I need to know. Okay, so we're wrapping up here. I want to ask you just a couple more questions. I know we're almost out of time. So going forward now for you've are you thinking that are you going to create a company? Are you out of this? Are you going to create an agency? What are you going to do with you got traction now, right? You got people interested, you got supporters, sponsors, you got some like you said, you jumped out of the airplane and the parachute opened and now you're floating down towards the ground. And now what do you do with this? How do you monetize this? Right. What do you think?
Well, so there's the artistic side, that I know that there's an expiration date to dancing. So I'm definitely enjoying and loving every second that I'm performing and doing that. Because I know that at some point it ends. So really loving that. Then, there's the aspect of learning more about the robot technology, becoming an expert in that. Because I think it will be applicable, and I think it's the future here on Earth. And then for me, it's also, I think, the future in space. I think robotics is a huge component that's going to be happening in space. So at least I'm just building up those fundamentals. In terms of company, funny you mentioned that, like, having talks about creating a robot company.
Yes.
And what that looks like. So interesting. And yeah, at the moment, enjoying the creation process. I'm definitely in kind of like the artistic space, but I do believe, like, there's Einstein's quote, which is play is the highest form of research. So what I'm thinking is like I'm not stressing about it. I'm like, it's play. Like I'm doing this production in March here, there in the UK, in May, April, possibly in the US. Like, and I'm learning.
Is that why you're in India? You're about to do a production, dance production?
Not here in India, but back in Dubai. Yeah.
Okay. But
it's been fun.
Okay. Last question. You are fascinating. I could talk to you for like another 3 hours. You're a fascinating individual. Your work ethic is crazy. Some people listening to this episode, they're going to be reminded that, look, it's all about the hustle. Like, you have got to get up and kick ass and hustle and be super organized and super dedicated. You see somebody that's got a resume like yours, education like yours, like that didn't just, fall out of the sky. Like, you got to work your ass off to get that. So congrats on everything you've done. Really super impressive. Last question for you. If you could put your core purpose in life into like a sentence, what would that sound like right now?
So I think I'm at a transition phase. Definitely in my 20s, it was my mantra for myself was, I am free and I give hope. So the first part was like, I'm free of stereotypes. I'm free to be me. I'm free to fail. I'm free to win. And like, I just needed to get kind of unshackled from all these stereotypes and this pressure that I was feeling. Like, I was just like, I needed some sort of thing. And that was for me, like, I'm free. Like, I'm free of whatever people are saying is impossible. I'm free. Like, I'm just free of it. And then the second part was my motivation, which is, and I give hope. because I didn't know if I was going to make it in physics or dance, but I do believe that it is possible. And so I was like, look, any step forward that I take, I'm giving, I believe, hope. If someone sees me and is like, oh, if she can get that far, and she's not that talented, like I can do it too, kind of thing, be like, so that was I think the motivation in my 20s was, I'm free and I give hope. I think that now that I've achieved, like I've gotten the PhD and I've got, been in a number of ballet companies around the world, I think that, this year has been a reflection on like, what is my new mantra going forward. And I wish I had a concise answer for you right now. I'm a little, because I think people think, oh, she must be so organized and so disciplined and so this. It's for people who actually know me, it's a little bit like Dory from Finding Nemo. I'm like, who am I? Where am I doing? Where am I going? I don't know. It's a little. Hopefully soon I'll have a concise thing.
It's interesting as you move along in life. I think in your 20s you have a core purpose. When you're in your 30s, it changes. When you're in your 40s, it changes.
Yeah.
I'm in my 50s, and my core purpose now is a hell of a lot different than it used to be. Yeah, I think it depends on the stage of life you're in. Well, Merritt, thank you so much for being on the Riderflex podcast and sharing your story. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. This was fun.